Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is
Hi.
3 o'clock Central Standard Time. See, I know what that means. We are live for another episode of Book Talk Live. Today I'm joined by two phenomenal number one best-selling authors, Miss Charlene Ross and Mr. Josias Jean-Pierre. How y'all doing today?
Real good. Hope you are.
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and move myself down so that everybody can actually see Josias with his with all his splendor. So I can go on and on about the amazing things that you all are doing, about who you are, about the accomplishments, what you've done already. But I want y'all to introduce yourselves. We can do it. Go ladies first, or Josias first, or how y'all want to do it.
Go ahead, Josiah. You're good.
Yeah, I'm Josias Jean-Pierre. I'm an activist here in Seattle. Started to work on activism around 2012. I think after Trayvon Martin, it's put up a spark in me to get into the work of activism and really look into the furthermore to the system or what the system is really about. I always say system's acronym is seeing your slaves toil every moment because once for all, we are never part of this system. Even when we look at the Pledge of Allegiance, we will see that one thing for sure. The original Pledge of Allegiance says, I pledge allegiance to my flag. It was never to the flag. And when we look at the color of the flag, it's really red, white, and blue. And you go throughout the years, we see a lot of injustice happening in America, going back from civil rights movement to this present moment. And the same fight every single day was about equality. Hey, how can Black lives and brown lives be relevant in America? So when we hear the statement, Black lives matter, and if people say, I don't believe Black lives matter, I believe all lives matter. What you're really saying is, what do you call a Black life? So I wrote the book called Our Cry for Justice, which is a poetry book that I wrote, which entails really the cries of our hurt and our pain throughout the years. Before it was adults fighting this fight. Today it's kids fighting this fight. Little boys, little girls fighting this fight in the front lines, crying for justice. And this message for this book, Our Cry for Justice, is all about understanding the hurts and the wounds that we go through. So you hear the cry, you hear the sorrow, you hear the pain, but now feel it through the poetry, through metaphors, similes. And I write the book as if I was the victim in that situation with a member.
There you go. Yeah, it's a phenomenal book, man. Definitely a phenomenal book. We're gonna have to get you to give us a spoken word before the show is up. So let's hear what Josiah's really got. All right, Miss Charlene.
And I'm Charlene Ross. I am the mother of Shonquell Barrett. Um, and I started this journey in 2018 when my son was wrongfully killed with the use of the pit maneuver. And I wrote this book called My Life Without You, A Mother's Journey Through Grief and Loss. And it brings about awareness about the pit maneuver and how it can terminate lives. And I have been advocating for this to have it banned in the United States, which I'm still currently doing. And this book has just taken me down a lot of different avenues, and I go across state to state trying to get this banned in the United States.
Absolutely, yeah. And your book as well was extremely powerful. The narrative of the book, the things that happened, and how you walk people through it, so that there are people out there that are like, well, it's only happening to you. Just get over it. And it's like, no, this is reality. This is what life is really about. So I salute both of y'all. Um,
Thank you.
one thing I want to know, and y'all can kind of, before we even jump into where you are now, um, let's talk a little bit about the journey as a writer. Like, what was your journey to becoming a writer actually like?
Well, with me, it was like so bizarre. If something came to my mind, I would write on like napkins, the back of a light bill, the back of my bank statement. I would have my book in my bed, and if I would have a dream, I'll wake up and I'll start writing, and all those things compile into a wonderful masterpiece. My Life Without You. That's how I started, just writing on anything that came to mind. I could be driving, and if a thought came, and I thought it was going to be good in my book, I'll just stop and I'll just write it down. When I tell you I have so many napkins, so many bills, just little sticky papers, and then I had to put all that together, and it came out with this wonderful book called My Life Without You. That's what my writing process was like.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
me, my writing process, I have a notepad on my phone. So like 85% of the time, I have notes on my phone. It's really a book. I got 40 notes of books that are not even finished yet. It's almost done of manuscripts. So what I do for me is, um, I really speak in big stages and big platforms. I'm already a published author of two other books called The Power of Your Words and What Is Your Why Behind the Drive. And around this book, Our Crop for Justice, I really wasn't going to touch it. I wasn't going to go ahead and crack the surface on it. But 2020 was a wake up call. And I said, you know what, there has to be a way where this message could go across and touch a lot of people who don't understand our pain, our tears, our cry, our agony, and our pain. So on my phone, I have notes where I just write a message. Look at different things going on, and I put it into a whole spectrum of messages in the book. And then when I'm done with my notes, I go to my Word document, my computer, and transfer everything into my Word document, go back and forth that way. And then from there on, that's something I became out to be our cry for justice and really just get that expanded so you can hear the pain and the agony and the sorrow. Because technically, if justice is not present for another generation, we'll fight for the same crimes. Generation before us are going to fight over and over and over again. And I always feel like this: what can we do to make sure people after us don't have to fight the fight that we have to fight prior? And the fact that generations after us are fighting the same fight over and over and over again, I want this to be a message understanding like, look, it's the same story, it's a different generation, but how it looks is very different. So what can we do when we talk about justice, talking about liberty and freedom for all?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the you touched on something. People have been fighting this same fight, not just in the 21st century, not just in 2020 and 2021. This has been going on for years, for hundreds of years now. So I salute both of you for taking that stand, and actually saying, hey, there has to be a change, and it starts now. Um, it starts now. I want to know, and we're gonna get into what's happened since, but I want to know, what was it like working with Bill BM?
It was wonderful working with BOBM. You know, they saw my vision and what I wanted because I wanted to be a bestseller. I wanted people to read it and couldn't put it down and and let it help them. So they saw my vision and it came to manifest. It turned out nice. Um, so the team was real wonderful in the way they went about getting everything that I wanted done, and it's a success.
Absolutely.
Now, working with Bill Beer for me has been phenomenal. It has been great. It's been rewarding, eye opening. When I tell you that whatever you have, they'll make sure you see it come into fruition however you want to see it. It's powerful. As someone who's a previous publisher who published two different books, it was more like what's best for the publisher company, but wasn't what's best for you as a person who's writing your story. And what's most powerful and impactful about that is that with BMBM Publishing, what they do is they make sure your voice is heard. They make sure this is what you want. They will picture it, they will vision it, but they want to make sure, hey, is this what you're looking for? Is this what you're looking at, thinking about when you say this is what you're looking at? Like for me, you see the cover of my book, and all I told them was this: this is what I want. I said I want, us as Black folks crying out to society, saying, hey, I need help. We matter. We're relevant. Also, African, Black history is also American history, and a lot of times over and over again, we find ourselves crying out to the world and the reflection is only back to our own people. So you see the cover of the book where it's on the left side, you see the brown side where it's us crying out, and the other side is the audience is the white world, and we're crying out to the world like crazy over and over again, and we're crying, shedding tears. But the only people who can understand our hurt and our pain over and over again is our own people. So on the other side, you see the reflection because we're talking to ourselves over and over again. So when they made that happen for me, I was like, wow, yeah, you basically nailed it in the whole perspective right there on what I was thinking about. With BOBM, they make sure that they put your work, your voice, and make sure that it's you who gets ownership of everything you're doing. And they might think of it, but it wouldn't go through without your approval. So the whole process of BOBM publishing, I really find myself a part in the whole process and not just in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That is, I'm gonna give it a shameless plug and say the team is amazing. They put the passion behind it to make sure that your vision becomes reality. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, then we're gonna come back and find out what's been going on with these two phenomenal authors since they've been published. You definitely want to tune in and see what's happening since. Quick commercial break from our sponsor. Business of Books Mastermind Coaching Program has been around for the past 3 years. Myself as a coach, we've actually helped hundreds of authors get their books published and even more to become Amazon #1 best-selling authors. Over the past year and a half, we started our Amazon bestseller launch program, and 225 plus to date have all become #1 best-selling authors in multiple categories. Now, the reason that we started this coaching program is for people like you who you've either just started working on your first book and you don't know where to go with it. You're looking for a blueprint to creating your book. You're wondering how to market your book. You're wondering about how to connect with your audience. And most importantly, how am I going to sell this book and create income from it? These are all things that we teach you inside of 90 Days to Bestseller. The reason that this program is relevant to you is because you want to write that book and you want to be successful. Now that person may not be you. Here's the opposite. You've already written your book and you want to relaunch it as a bestseller. Been there, done that. My first book, I actually changed the cover twice for that exact same reason. The first cover, I loved it. But for some reason, after a while, it got stale. It was sitting on the shelf. So I created my own cover. Bad idea, right? The reason that it was a bad idea is because it looked like somebody was creating a network marketing flyer for my book. Went back and let a professional do it. Keyword, professional. Once that professional got their hands on my book, changed the book cover, it created a completely different vibe for my book. And here's what we've done as a result. From that change, from those slight changes, having a professional designer, going and hiring a professional editor, that book has actually launched a career for me that has taken me around the globe. And when I say around the globe, I've spoken at places all across the country and even done a few virtual international workshops here in the past few months. Now, for you, we can show you the exact same thing. We have the blueprint, we have the tools, we have the system that will work to help you get your book published and launched as an Amazon bestseller. Now, how long does it take? Typically, it takes us about 90 days. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be overnight. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be easy, but we will tell you that we have a blueprint that works and you should be next. Hey, and we are back. In case you missed it, we are tuned in live with the two phenomenal best-selling authors, Miss Charlene Ross and Mr. Josias Jean-Pierre. Amazing books, powerful stories. I just want to have a conversation with y'all. I know that y'all have been busy. Y'all have been active since the books came out. Tell me some of the things that have changed for you since you launched your latest book, became a bestseller. What's different? What's the same? What are y'all excited about?
Well, I'm excited about this coming up week. I will be going to Atlanta, to the Capitol, to do a protest with Glenda Marsh. The same thing that happened, the pit maneuver killed her son, Jeffrey Thomas. So the news media contacted her from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and gave her my information. And she has reached out and and we talk a lot. She's like family, and so we're going to join and fight this together. So I'll be going down there this weekend at the Capitol at 10 a.m. and protesting for the cause.
Absolutely. And I don't want y'all to miss that. She said the news media reached out to her and contacted her about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
come on. That's
yeah,
huge.
that is huge. And so I'm just excited about going down there. And this is the first of many states that I will visit. You know, I want to go all over and fight for this cause to have it banished. It doesn't need to be implemented, it doesn't need to be in place where it can terminate a life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And for me, I want to say up to date now, I have 9 speaking engagements. Um, that's really I average over the year like 4 or 5 engagements throughout the year, but I have 9 engagements just for this year itself. I've been actually speaking many broadcast shows, podcasts, radio shows. I actually have an engagement in 2 weeks where I'm speaking to a radio podcast out of Alabama. Their theme is race and justice, and how does that look like in America, and how does race and justice look like for the church? One of the things I would say was 2020 was a wake up call. And I think it was also a wake up call for the church. Because we talk about race and justice around the church, it was silence about. And so I have that going on. I'm also going to have an opportunity next month where I'll be part of a book expo out in South Carolina, on a book expo in South Carolina with other authors at a Black owned bookstore. It's been great. It's been phenomenal. But I always make sure at the end of the day that God gets the glory through it all, because if it wasn't for Him, this stuff would never been going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. You said South Carolina. I think Miss Charlene kind of perked up a little bit.
Yeah, South Carolina is just right down the road. That's good. I too also am going to be doing speaking and engagements and facilitating. I got my website up and going. It is called TKO Pit Maneuver Kills.com. And also my Gmail, my mail is tkoKills@gmail.com. So you can look on those sites, and it has pictures on there. It has me in the protests that I've done previously. Also, where it has happened to other members, I have their cars on there so you can see the damage that it causes when they use this technique. Because so many times we hear about cancer awareness, we hear about gun violence awareness, we hear about mental illness awareness, but many people don't know about the pit. I never knew about the pit maneuver until it happened to my son. So that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing about awareness so people can understand that this technique can terminate lives. And what it stands for is precision immobilization technique, and it's a deadly force. And just working to have it vanish is all I want to do. Just have it vanish. I can't bring my son back, but I can prevent it from happening to another family, another mother going through the same thing that I went through.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, um, you did bring up a good point. You know, the pit maneuver is not something that people are really aware that it's happening, that it is so big. Um, Kind of explain that pit maneuver to the people, but I want you to explain it from your perspective, because not according, but you were actually on the phone with your son during that incident when he lost his life. So tell us a little bit more about the incident and make it personal.
Well, I was on the phone that night with my son. He called me. He's like, "Mom, I'm in a high speed chase," and I was telling him get to a lighted area. And so we're talking. The phone call drops a couple of times, and he's like, he was scared. I never heard nobody that scared in my life. And as I was doing my research, and I was finding out that um, this pit maneuver was done incorrectly. It was done at the wrong speed. I proposed a question to the, um, the highway patrolman, and I asked him. I said, at what speed are you training your officers to use this pit? And they was telling me between 45 and 55. So I said, so you're not training your officers at 90 plus, 100 plus miles? And they was like, they couldn't say anything because it wasn't. Therefore, your training is not effective.
Yeah.
You're not training at those high speed, those at those miles. So when I was on the phone with my son and I was telling him, well, just pull over. I'm close to you. I'm almost there. I'm about probably about 4 or 5 blocks away. I'm almost there. So I heard this loud noise, and I'm trying to call him, and I'm trying to get him back, and I can no longer get him on the phone. Um, and that was it. And I often think about that because all I can hear him saying is, "Ma, just get to me. Ma, just come on." That echoes a lot when I was trying to get to him, and I couldn't get to him. So that's why I'm trying to, not trying, I'm going to get this man in the United States. And I got so many people that's going to come aboard, is going to help me, and we're going to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And we stand with you, because there should not be any maneuvers out there where it's that deadly, because it's happening way too often. Um, so we stand behind you. We definitely stand behind you. Yeah, Josias, let me talk to me about your passion for activism, man.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you front line with this.
Well, my passion started. It stirred up after 2018 when my friend Jarrell and I, we went to go camping with a family, church family members, out camping in the boonies. There's no black diversity and no diversity in the area. It was Kellis Campground, and out in the boonies. And we're driving. I have my Haiti plaque in my car. Being Haitian, representing my culture very strongly. Tinted windows, Honda Accord, two black men driving down State Route 7, going back to where diversity is located in King County. And that's so miles on the road, I see from my back view mirror, I see lights pulling out of nowhere. And lights came across. I pulled over to the side. My friend Joe was like, "Hey, why'd you stop?" I said, "I see lights flashing all the way in the back. I'm pulling over to give them room to go." And they didn't know at the time, but they pulled us over. They pulled us over. And we don't know what's going on. So the cop came out, hit the back of my car, threw some hands, and came across and like, "Hey, I'm pulling you over for speeding." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Speeding? I'm going 25 miles an hour, and that's the speed limit at the state route 7, 25 miles an hour." They said, "No, we caught you going over 40 miles an hour on this highway." I said, "I wasn't going 40 miles an hour on this highway. I was going 25 miles an hour, and it was heavy traffic. So how can I go 40 miles an hour in heavy traffic going off Route 7?" And there was no correspondence. He went on. He asked for the person in my passenger seat, which is Jarrell at the time, about his ID, to get his ID. And I said, "Officer, if this is a speeding ticket, why are you asking for the person in my car for his ID if I'm the one driving?"
Hmm.
And at this moment, I'm thinking about everybody who died in the hands of law enforcement at the moment of time. Everybody who died, everybody who was, mistaken for someone else. Everything you could think about, I thought about it at the moment. So he goes, "You need your ID." The problem with this is his camping stuff is in my back seat. He told the officer, "Officer, I need to go to the back seat to get my ID." Officer didn't respond. "Officer, I need to go to the back seat to get my ID. Is that okay?" Officer didn't respond. Everything within me was like, "Officer, he about to go to the back seat to get his ID. Is that okay with you?" Officer said yes. At that moment, I'm thinking we're about to die. He goes to the back of the seat to get his ID. The officer immediately puts his hand on his gun, shuffling his gun on his head. And I'm screaming, I am crying, and etc. The officer gave him his ID. He gave his officer's ID. Officer gave it back to him. And he went back to his car, came back to me and said, "Hey, you have a restraining order against you." I said, "Restraining order?" I was like, "I don't understand." He goes, "Yeah, there's a restraining order against you." I said, "What do you mean?" I have no issue with the law. I have a good record. I know what you're talking about. You got the wrong person. He goes, "Nope." It came back that it was you for this restraining order. I said, "Well, how would the restraining order happen in this case?" He goes, "Well, you should have been served paper." I said, "Well, I never got some papers in my life." officer, you got the wrong person. I know what you're talking about. We're coming back from, camping for church family. I know what you're talking about. The officer came back and he said, well, here's your speeding ticket. And sorry about that. We got you mistaken with somebody else. The birthday was different. I said, officer, I don't understand. And I still got this document from court. I said, officer, I don't understand. You're trying to tell me that someone with my name, my address, my license number is all the same, but the birthday was different? I don't comprehend. I was like, I need some full explanation. He goes, well, go about your day. Here's your ticket. Go from there. I went to court. I couldn't even drive. I asked one of my best friends, Chris Wilburn, to go ahead and take me to court, which is an hour away from where I live. It was a different county. And I was like, hey, bro, listen, I'll do whatever you can, bro. If you drive my car and we can go to court, I cannot drive. I'm shaking up. I'm still at this point just flustered about what happened. We went to court and got to the courtroom. Me and my best friend Chris were out in the courtroom. The judge says, okay, can you go ahead and rise up? And he called my name over, and I couldn't even talk. All I could do was cry in the courtroom. I couldn't even talk. I couldn't say anything. The judge was like, okay, go ahead and breathe. Slow down. Go ahead and talk about what's going on. They dismissed the case. Hey, I walked free. I get no ticket. Go from there. They dismissed the case and told me, because you were charged for a wrongful crime, we're going to drop this ticket. Have a great day. But at that moment, it stirred something in me because I still couldn't go along with the fact this happened to me. Right? It's different when you hear about it, but it's nothing when it's you or someone it happens to. The fight is now different. So my rage of justice and my fight for justice went to a whole different spectrum, to a whole different level. And to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take these streets not just for me, but for everybody else who's impacted by this very system. Because I turned 25 that day, right? So, and you hear about Omar Arbery who turned 25 on his birthday. I turned 25 that day for my 25th birthday. And I'm thinking, hey, I could have been dead that day. I could have been shot that day. And because of that, what happened is I really took the streets on behalf of everybody that was a part who was impacted by this, to the point where even when I went to the protests in Seattle, I went to a lot of protests in Seattle area, and I seen a protest. 2020, all people see was, hey, Seattle's blowing up on the news. But what they don't see is who's really causing the blowing up. Mm-hmm. So, I remember this one incident where a car is blowing up in Seattle, police cars, thousands of cops are right next to the cars, and a lady is blowing up the cars in Seattle. And the next thing you know, the cops are tear gassing every protester who's unarmed.
Oh, no.
But the lady's right there blowing up your car. But you didn't stop her. You guys didn't tackle her. Every blow up that happened, here's Seattle police. Boom, boom, boom. Tear gassing the protesters who's unarmed saying, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And it was a white woman who blew up the Seattle cars, which they said they found out later on who it was months later. But I'm like, you didn't find out who it was months later because y'all seen who it was. You didn't take no action.
Yeah.
So I found myself really, what the TV was showing was not what's really going on in the present moment. So while it was going on, I went live, Facebook Live with this, like, hey, you guys, do not believe the news, do not believe the media. What you're going to see is this, what's really happening live is X, Y, and Z. And that's where my cry really started for justice, where the rage went up higher more, was because of that incident in 2018.
Man, come on. Listen, much younger days. Been in some of those protests as well and saw a lot of what you're saying. Because it's usually the people who are fighting for freedom are not the ones who are not the ones that are sitting there, like you said, blowing up the cars or causing the violence. They're asking for, like, hey, hear us, hear our cry. And so the fact that you all are bringing awareness to it, that speaks volumes. I'm actually going to give y'all a chance to kind of talk a little bit more about, some of the things that y'all are doing to promote yourselves, but also just give y'all a chance to kind of talk. We're going to take a quick commercial break, probably be back in about 2 minutes, and we'll be right back shortly.
The BOBM family, I love y'all. You have supported me, and I don't even have words for how being in this environment has allowed me to really tap into some things that I didn't know I needed to tap into. And I thank you because you're okay with me being me. And I love people that are okay with me being me. I'm not always in the clouds. I laugh a lot. I'm kind of goofy. I'm kind of silly. But let me tell you, I'm serious about this piece right here. And I thank you for recognizing and being okay with the fact that I'm serious about this piece right here. So thank you. Thank you, Sugar Ray.
Hey, and we are back. We're back once again with two phenomenal Amazon best-selling authors, Miss Charlene Ross, Mr. Josias Jean-Pierre. Both in the current moment are actually activists. Miss Charlene Ross is an activist against the pit maneuver, which took the life of her son, and Josias is an activist against violence that's happening against unarmed Black men, Black women, people of color in the streets, bringing the realities to you all, and as a result of bringing the realities to you, they're starting to see a little bit more. They're starting to see a few more opportunities. So for those of you out there that are saying, well, I want to speak up, but I'm scared because then they're going to stifle my voice. And they're saying right here, no, that's not the case. There's actually more opportunity because people want to hear and need to know what's going on. So talk me through some specifics. Miss Charlene, you are in the process of getting a full bill for your son against the pit maneuver. Let's talk through it. Tell me some of the things that you've been able to do, and the steps that you've taken so far, so that we can possibly get you some help. Some of the people that are tuned in, and that want to help, they know how they can actually help.
Okay. First of all, I had to do some research, found out what the pit maneuver is and what it stood for. And like again, I said, it does mean that it is precision immobilization technique that is used. I had to find those things out. I had to find the policies and the procedures. And I found out that in the policy and procedures, it states that in order to use the pit maneuver, that the person had to be a felon, a bank robbery had occurred, or murder. So none of those things happened. It was nothing, no justifiable. It wasn't a probable cause that it took place. And so I'm just trying to get them to really banish it. But if they won't banish it, to get some more law set in place, to revamp it, to change the policy and procedure, maybe use it at a lower speed. But the overall goal is to have it banished. I've met with some senators. I've did several protests. I did a virtual with Governor Cooper. I am now the CEO and founder of TKO, which stands for the Pit Maneuver Killed Our Loved Ones. And so in that organization, we're going to go out, we're going to fight for the cause, we meet other families that this has happened to, and get this done. So I would say, read and turn that pain into purpose, fight for what you believe in, don't give up, keep going, find people that's going through the same thing that you've gone through, and work together and build and get it done, get it banished, fight for the cause, always fight for what you believe in. You have a voice. And because our loved one's not here anymore, we are their voice. So my son's life and name will not go in vain.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely will not go in vain. Is there a way that people can support the cause?
I'm in the process of, I just got my website up and going. It's tkopitmaneuverkills.com. and I'm going to have a petition where you can go and electronically sign. I'm also going to be going around different places, having my petition there. And like I said, I met with some senators. I'm just waiting on one more thing. I have to keep quiet right now and let things fall into place. But they are talking to me and they are making some changes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So y'all heard it first. Um, be on the lookout for it. Make sure you go to the website. You said TKO.
TKOpitmaneuverkills.com.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and get that. We'll go ahead and get that website up so that people can actually go to it and join the movement to help you get that bill passed, because Shonquell's life is definitely valuable.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Josias.
Yeah. One thing I'll say is, your voice is your voice. Your voice is powerful. Your voice is the biggest weapon that we as humans carry every single time. We have the tools to build up or destroy just by the words that we declare out of our mouth every single day. Just because it didn't happen to you does not mean it didn't happen to somebody. Just because you don't understand does not mean that there's not understanding to take place. I always tell people all the time, especially around the talk about justice and our talk around justice, is understand. Hey, it may not happen in my doorstep. I may not see it happen to the people on my doorstep, but it's happening. How can I be part of the solution? And all we're saying is we want you a part of the solution. Um, my whole purpose around this is people to understand the root of the root. One thing about the root is the root will never change. The root is the root no matter what. And when we look back, even in policing history, they were never called police officers. They were called slave patrols. Never police officers, slave patrols, right? What they would do is they would catch a slave who try to run and beat them to death. When we look at the when they do their swear-ins and they talk about the oath that they took. If you look at this oath in 1950s and look at the oath of today, it's not the same. But the actions being represented by law enforcement is coming from the oath of the 1960s and the 50s.
Yeah.
So just because the oath might change on what they say, it doesn't mean the actions will change. And the purpose of all this is I want people to understand and know and fully grasp the concept that, hey, we will never be able to have a better generation after us if the generation after us have to keep on fighting the fight that we have to keep on fighting in the present moment. And I'm at a mentality state where, when I go out to the jails, talk to the kids, I see a lot of panels on race and justice panels. How does race and justice impact education? How does race and justice impact the church? How does race and justice impact the system that's built in America? Because when we look at the systems in America, we'll realize how the biggest disparities in every system is race. The driven factor of every system is race. When you pull out every system, you call out a system between housing to credit to finances, everything. Race plays a big factor. And one thing we will see is there's been a gap for a long time with race that Black and brown people have to play catch up. But why do we play catch up? Because opportunities are not given to us as American citizens in this country.
Yeah.
So I want people to understand and fully understand when we talk about, hey, justice, our cry for just understanding the pain, we're fighting for the ones who coming ahead, coming behind them. We're fighting for those two. We're not just fighting for the people who already been gone, but we're fighting for a system that says, hey, this gotta stop. An end needs to come. And I will say this: if you feel like you're voiceless, go back to the thing that motivates you, that drives you, that says, you know what, I gotta keep on going no matter what. Go back to that very thing that says, you know what, this motivates me and this is my why behind it. And because this is my why, I have to keep on pursuing after this. So when I go into this work, I understand this work is dangerous. I understand this work is tough and simple. This work is kind of crazy, but the cause behind this work is for greater good.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, don't ever, 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 as Smokey was saying, ever let your voice be silenced, because your voice is more powerful. And as you can see from these two phenomenal authors, two phenomenal activists, if you are not willing to stand up for the injustices that are going on around, then what's going to continue to happen is you'll see the same thing happening again and again and again. And I'll add to what you were saying, Josias. The police system started. It actually came to be in America as a result of the slaves being freed. Once the slaves were freed, and this is just a little bit of history. I'm going to go back to my African American studies background at UT, and says when the slaves were freed, they formed, like you said, those policing parties, and those policing parties were there so that if you stepped off of the plantation, you were now a vagrant. As a vagrant, which means you did not have a home, so they could restrain you, put you in prison, and lease you back to the people as a sharecropper. That's where the sharecropping system came in. The other part of it was if you were able to get off the plantation, but as a freed man, you were able to read. It was illegal for Black people at that point to be able to read. So again, your freedom could be taken. You could be detained and placed back into a system where they were enforcing the free labor. And so that system is still in effect to this day, which is why you see so many minorities and so many people are being given extreme amounts of time for small crimes, because which is easier to pay somebody minimum wage, which at one point was $7 to $10 an hour, or to pay somebody $2 a day. So that the criminal justice system that we see now is now being monopolized by corporations and being invested in by corporations, which are making multimillionaires and billionaires off of the labor that they're getting at little to no charge. So if you think that this fight is just against people who are being inhumane to African Americans, against brown Americans, against minorities, against lower income people, then guess what? There's a reason. There's a systematic reason that this is actually happening. And until all voices are heard, then you can say all lives matter all you want. But we're just saying all lives do matter. But guess what? I'm Black and my life matters too. So with that being said, we're gonna take I know this is not the book talk live that y'all were expecting. Y'all usually don't hear this from the man in the suit. But we got to get the word out and actually start to get this fight moving, because I promise you, I do not want the next generation to go through the same things that we've went through and that our parents had to go through, continuing to fight the same fight when it's not a race issue, it's a human issue. We're all humans. Come on, y'all. All right. We're going to take a quick break. I know it's a little bit passionate, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back in about 2 and 2. Business of Books Mastermind Coaching Program has been around for the past 3 years. Myself as a coach, we've actually helped hundreds of authors get their books published and even more to become Amazon #1 best-selling authors. Over the past year and a half, we started our Amazon bestseller launch program, and 225 plus to date have all become #1 best-selling authors in multiple categories. Now, the reason that we started this coaching program is for people like you who you've either just started working on your first book and you don't know where to go with it. You're looking for a blueprint to creating your book. You're wondering how to market your book. You're wondering about how to connect with your audience. And most importantly, how am I going to sell this book and create income from it? These are all things that we teach you inside of 90 days to bestseller. The reason that this program is relevant to you is because you want to write that book and you want to be successful. Now, that person may not be you. Here's the opposite. You've already written your book and you want to relaunch it as a bestseller. Been there, done that. My first book, I actually changed the cover twice for that exact same reason. The first cover, I loved it. But for some reason, after a while, it got stale. It was sitting on the shelf. So I created my own cover. Bad idea, right? The reason that it was a bad idea is because it looked like somebody was creating a network marketing flyer for my book. Went back and let a professional do it. Keyword, professional. Once that professional got their hands on my book, changed the book cover, it created a completely different vibe for my book. And here's what we've done as a result. From that change, from those slight changes, having a professional designer, going and hiring a professional editor, that book has actually launched a career for me that has taken me around the globe. And when I say around the globe, I've spoken at places all across the country and even done a few virtual international workshops here in the past few months. Now, for you, we can show you the exact same thing. We have the blueprint, we have the tools, we have the system that will work to help you get your book published and launched as an Amazon bestseller. Now, how long does it take? Typically, it takes us about 90 days. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be overnight. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be easy, but we will tell you that we have a blueprint that works and you should be next. Hey, what's going on? We are back. Book Talk Live, joined by two phenomenal, amazing, powerful. And when I say powerful, if y'all just tuning in, y'all missing one of those conversations that needs to be had. With we're being joined by Miss Charlene Ross and Mr. Josias Jean-Pierre, both bestsellers, Amazon #1 best-selling authors. We've been talking about the causes. We've been talking about the things that has happened since Josiah said he's been booked. He used to do 4 speaking engagements a year. He's already up to 9 just since he launched. And he launched his latest book back in, I think, in December. Miss Charlene Ross said, "You know what? I have been talking to senators. I've been talking to Congress. The news sought me out to have me come down to a protest in Georgia, and there's others on the way. And so we've been talking about the things that have happened, how you can get involved in their causes, and we got people out from Federal Way, Washington. We got Houston Tillerson alumni, HTU. I love y'all. I love y'all. Y'all current president. She is thebomb.com, Miss Colette Burnett Pierce. I'm hoping I'm saying that right, but she is top notch. Amazing lady. I want to know for those who are out there and they are saying, you know what, I want to write a book. I want to get my book out. I got a story. I've been through some things. That can change some lives if people knew how I got out of this situation. What is your advice to new authors? Or even for Josias, what's your advice to existing authors to not only get that book out, but also how are you all promoting your books? Because y'all are doing some numbers.
Good question. I'll say first and foremost, for the new people who want to write their book, write their story, no matter what the genre is, I'll say start reading books. Because in order to become a good writer, you have to be a good reader. And there's not a certain writing style. Every writing style is different, especially on the genre you want to write about. So like myself, I'm a self-help inspirational author. So in order for me to become a good writer, I have to read a lot of books around self-help inspirational books to see how do they write. You see different authors write different type of ways. But for me, what I've done was I went to the side, do not disturb, my phone did not disturb, and got to a place where I just free write and see what comes out. Free write, just release, have it. You just the pen and paper, just move and see what comes out. I always say like this: think of writing an essay, right? You have your body paragraphs, but your body paragraphs are your chapters. And so when I thought about like this, thought about that way, like okay, my body paragraph are my chapters. All I have to work on is transitioning, how to transition from one to another.
Mhm.
I was good.
Exactly, exactly. All right, Charlene.
I would say the same. Read, read, read. You have a story that somebody else needs to hear and that can change somebody else's life around that can benefit from it. So get your book out there. Um, everything or everyone, you have purpose. You have a purpose for your life. To write a book or whatever you do, fight for a cause, get it done. No procrastination. I procrastinated a lot, but I got it done, and look where it took me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Procrastination is the enemy of greatness. I say that again. Procrastination is the enemy of greatness. Take some time and actually write that book. Get those chapters. If you wrote, like Josiah said, if you've ever written a college paper, you can write a chapter. Once you pick the number of chapters that you want to put into your book and get it done. What have y'all been doing since the book has been out to promote? And I'm not talking about just one book. Let me make that correction. Um, One for Josias's book, Our Cry for Justice, is a book of poetry. It's a phenomenal book of poetry. And like I said, we're gonna get him to do a spoken word before we end this broadcast. And Miss Charlene's book is called My Life Without You. It's about her losing her son to police who used the pit maneuver. So what both powerful books. What have you all done since the book has been out to promote your book? Because like I said, y'all are putting some numbers up on the board.
Well, I've had some book signings, and on my job, anywhere I go, even in, like the store yesterday, I was a colleague that I used to work with a while back. I said, "Hey, I wrote a book. You should check it out." So he's in the story. He's like, he Googles and he's like, "Oh wow, you come up in everything." So I'm like, "Yes, I'm gonna get your book." So matter of fact, I got some in the car. So I have my books with me. They're in the car. They're in my trunk. So I
Mm,
see somebody, hey, this is a great story. It's gonna change your life, or it can help somebody. You may know somebody that has gone through this. You may have know someone that, 'cause there's no right way to grieve. There's no wrong way. You don't know how to grieve. So this could help somebody in that grieving process to channel that in another way. Um, find another way to channel that grief and that hurt and that pain. But most of all, you have to deal with it. And um, you never can get over it. You're going to grieve for the rest of your life, but you can begin to build and restore and heal and turn that pain into purpose. You all have purpose.
come on.
For me, what I've been doing is I keep stacking a lot of books with me, like Miss Ross said, um, just copies, and even just when people hear, "Oh, you're an author," yeah, "Oh, your third book is a best-selling author," I was like, "Yeah, I need a copy." Here you go. Just the title behind just being a best-selling author, just that itself really like promotes itself. To be honest, because of that status of being a best-selling author, even the amount of books that were sold from my previous books increased so much just because of being a bestseller. So now what I do is I make sure I stay stocked up because no matter where I go or where I talk to, when I tell them, yeah, my name is Josias Jean-Pierre. Oh yeah, you're the author of this. I surely am. Yes. How can I get it? 1 second, you go to my car. Here you go. Just even the opportunities of just being book signings and just relevant amount of books and stuff like that. Also, just those opportunities of having a book and increase measurably, to the point where one, I'm not only viewed as a credible, a relevant person to talk about these issues, but it opened doors. And I mean, my names are being mentioned at tables I was never thought I'll be mentioned in. I'm being included in rooms I never thought I'll be included in, just because of the topic around race and justice. One thing I could say was, Washington passed a law of a chokehold ban, Washington State. And a lot of people were so mad that, oh man, officers can't do their job no more because they put a ban on chokehold. And all we said as Black people were like, if you don't have to use chokehold on white folks, you could do your job. If you don't have to use excessive force on white folks, you could do your job. So when the chokehold ban came in Washington State, there was a lot of outcry because they feel like we're limiting officers what they could go ahead and do. But if we look at the studies and statistics that shows how much force was used with both race, we'll see the majority has been used, excessive force been used on Black folks, and the law was passed just so the law was passed just so that the police force wouldn't use excessive force on minorities and people of color, because this could do it over and over and over again. The blue wall and the blue code of silence protects officers to do their harm against other people, and other people and their teammates don't have to report it, because if they report it, then they're considered a coward or you're a snitch and etc. if they report it. So the blue code of silence protects them. And so when this book came out, it opened a lot of eyes to even people who were like, hey, I don't believe in the chokehold bench. Now, whoa, we got to put a stop to this, because just do this book as a message.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, y'all are, I can tell y'all are extremely passionate, because of, and y'all aren't just passionate about the causes, y'all are passionate about what you have put out there, the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into these books. And one thing that I heard both of y'all say is, I keep it in the trunk. I keep them on me, so that when I bump into anybody, I'm letting them know that the book is actually here. And both of y'all have said, your names are being mentioned in places that you would never have thought to be if you weren't, an author. And so I salute you all. I commend you all. And we're gonna let Josias have a spotlight for a second, and bless us with one of these powerful spoken word poems. You
okay.
ready?
I'm ready.
All right. It's on you, bro.
I'm a Black man walking. I am a Black man talking. The color of my skin will cause a white man to start stalking. I'm not violent, but we get beat with violence. My presence makes America uncomfortable. While I am unarmed, I am harmed, but mass shooters are unstoppable. Being in my own home will cause me to rest in peace. No knock warrants will cause me to rest in peace. And sometimes I feel like a dead man walking, because America stays killing my peace. And over again, we have to breathe what they won't ever understand. Privilege says that won't ever be me. But the non-privilege says that could have been me. Privilege says I can cause crimes and do it with no repercussions. But the non-privilege says that if I cause the same crime, you're to face the repercussions. Privilege says I can storm the Capitol and do it like it's a hobby. But the non-privilege says I can't storm the Capitol. What you see will be dead bodies. See, the color of my skin is already a crime, and at times I wonder, are we the gods walking this earth because we are getting beaten the same way Christ was crucified, hung on a tree? And the difference is our cry is not, Abba, Father, forgive them for they know what not they do, but instead, no justice, no peace, no racist police, no justice, no peace, no racist police. The difference is our cry is not, Abba, Father, forgive them for they know what not they do, but instead, same story every time, being Black is not a crime. Same story every time, being Black is not a crime. The difference is our cry is not, Abba, Father, forgive them for they know what not they do, but instead, I can't breathe. I wonder why we're not impacted by the sun. Is it because we are the chosen ones in this world, picked and designed by the sun? I wonder, is my presence so powerful to reflect like a threat that America with 3Ks can help but use a gun, as if my existence was a form of a weapon? Blue lights, red lights, white lights. It's a black man. Pop, pop, pop. Here is your death sentence. I wonder, where did people get white Jesus? Because even Christ was persecuted and they resisted for how we looked. And years later, we were chanting and crying for them to free us because of how we look. My presence causes fear, which initiates violence. They tell you, you have the right to be silent, but if I don't speak up, they will shoot. So therefore, I'll rest in silence. Thank you.
Absolutely. Come on, man. Listen, you have been blessed with a spoken word by Josias Jean-Pierre out of his book, Our Cry for Justice. We've been joined today by these phenomenal, powerful authors, Miss Charlene Ross and Mr. Josias Jean-Pierre. So with that being said, we love y'all. We'll see you all next week.